It's a plan to help you with your health insurance costs for your employees. And if that weren't good enough, it's done for them at zero net cost to them. And also the employer gets tax breaks for doing it. And in addition to that, the big thing is it can increase their Social Security when they retire. All of your employees up to 200% of what they would have been. Right now, in Social Security, there's approximately 60 million people on it getting money from it right now. Of those, 70% of them, 70% bringing in less than $50 a day. In other words, they're bringing in something like $1,400 a month from Social Security. The max of Social Security is just a little less than $3,000 now that a person can receive. With this particular system called the Premier Healthcare Solution and the Premier Alternative Plan, what actually happens is these people receive up to 200% more in Social Security benefits when they retire than they would have. So in other words, if they're receiving $1,400 a month in today's dollars, they would be receiving something like $2,800 a month in the dollars when they retire at the present value. So think about that. That's $1,400 extra dollars per month times 12 months. That's $16,800 a year. Well, let's round that to 17 for ease. That means if the average employee retires at 65 and he lives to be, like many people do today, 84 to 85, he would bring in an extra $300,000 in Social Security. If they live like my mother did, to age 95, and still on Social Security, they'd receive over $500,000 extra in Social Security. Now, that was an ancillary benefit to an ancillary benefit. They didn't expect that when we first started this program. What they were doing were paying out-of-pocket costs for employees because employers are having a hard time keeping up with the Affordable Care Act or any insurance. In fact, there was a big article released just last week that we all could have known just by using our minds. But what it says is many people in America that even have a health and major medical plan don't use it. Why is it they don't use it? They can't afford the out-of-pocket cost and the copays to be able to use their system. So even though the employer provides it, they don't use it because they can't afford the out-of-pocket cost. So that brings us to the Premier Alternative Plan. I don't know of anything I've seen in 50 years of business when people come to produce a benefit for you, they usually want your money to help provide that benefit. This is the only one I've ever seen in all my years of living in business that actually bring money to you and place it for each employee that you have in a local bank in your self-insured insurance account that's a self-insured add-on. And what they do, they place an insurance policy that's a proprietary insurance policy that they get for next to nothing. They invest that difference. But in addition to that, they place approximately $16,000 a year into that local account for each employee you have. In other words, if you have 1,000 employees, they'd be placing $16 million in that local bank for you. I don't know of anybody that's ever done anything like that. Now, this is the unique thing about it. They have 6 patent pendings on this process. In other words, nobody's going to be able to do it for several years but this company. And what they've arranged is a banking mechanism that is backed up by a proprietary insurance product that allows them to put $16,000 a year into each of your employees' accounts. And then amount of money is deducted that lowers their FICA tax every month. And that money also, besides the $250 a month that goes to Premier to be the fiduciary of the plan and make it all happen, all that money goes into that local bank. Now, what is this? It is an insurance plan. It's a self-insured add-on that follows and aids major medical. If your major medical covers it, this does it. Now, they're not going to provide for a new facelift for you if you're like me and need it real bad. They're not going to provide extra surgeons in an operation. They're not going to provide your dental or your vision, because that's usually either offered or it's a part of major medical plans. So they don't cover that. But anything that is an out-of-pocket cost or a copay that follows your major medical plan, this plan covers. Now, when I first told my brother about this, he didn't understand it. Most people don't understand it the first time they hear it. But he was so excited, he told his son-in-law about it. Now, my brother is named Sam, but his son-in-law Max calls him Phil, not for Phil like a name, but F-I-L like father-in-law. My brother told him about this, and he was amazed because his son-in-law, who's a CFO for a company of 3,000 people, and really has the ear of the CEO, what he told my brother was this. He said, if this is real, Phil, he said, this is exactly what we've been looking for. He said, let me tell you something, Phil. He said, we have 4 major problems that are our biggest problems now as a business. It isn't even our competitors, except for the fact that our competitors can steal our employees with better benefits. But he said, here's what we have a problem with. Health insurance premiums are going up so fast, we can't keep up with it. And we're getting very close to the fact in a $600 million annual company that we're having a hard time providing major medical for our people. He said, number 2, he said, not only do we have problems with that, but here's an even bigger problem. Even if we provide it, remember the story I just told you a while ago about Americans using their plan? He said, even when we provide it, our deductibles are getting so high to afford the plan that our people can't afford to pay the copays and deductibles to use the plan we're paying for them for. Number 3, he said, this is a big one. He said, if we don't handle this problem and figure it out, he said, our competitors who have a better health plan and lower deductibles, they're already doing it. They're hiring away our best executives and workers. And he said, number 4, you'll find this amusing. Well, he said, guess who the major industry is we're losing our best employees and our best executives to? He said, we're losing to the health insurance industry because that's where all the costs and money is at the present time. Well, here, my brother's son-in-law gave him the perfect reason for the Premier Alternative Plan. This isn't like a lot of 105s and 125s, which are great plans, but many people did them wrong, and you've seen that litany in a graveyard of some of those programs. This is not like that. This company bought a proprietary idea because they were going to bring 250,000 people to place on just on an add-on. What they found is they needed to redo it, and so they spent 1.5 years, which I'm well aware of because I've waded through it. The first thing they did was take this to a legal firm in New York City that represents, for legality of benefits, 40% of the Fortune 500 companies. At first, they didn't even understand it. But when they finally understood it, they said, this is amazing. And so they didn't take a plan to them and ask them to bless it like you used to see with the old wellness plans. They took the plan that they were going to do to them and said, you tear it apart because we're not going to do this if you can't make it foolproof and airproof. So it took them 6 months with that legal firm to finally get the legal opinion. Attorney's firm just didn't give them a legal opinion. They rewrote the whole plan for them so that it would fit laws 105, 125, 162, the benefits of 213D. All those different things are like rulings like 280, where everybody has to be treated. You can't do a special thing for your executives and not do it for your regular employees. So they made that fit. We thought, well, they're going to go now. This is ready to hit the market. Now, that was just the first phase. They started on the second phase, and that was the fact that they put it before one of the big Manhattan CPA firms, and they had them examine this banking relationship between a nonprofit organization, Premier as the fiduciary, and the employer and the employees. They took another 5 months to go through that to say, this absolutely works. It's got 6 patent pendings, and they're getting more patents on it daily. This is an amazing thing. We thought, well, ready to go to market? No, not yet. They took 3 different econometric groups in a blind study where the others didn't know what the others were doing and had them examine, not economics, econometrics are the effect that anything has on taxes and the government income base. And all 3 of those groups, one a professor's group, 2 were professional consulting firms of that nature. And what they came out was, all 3 said, this plan will benefit the government in taxes $700 more per year per employee than if it wasn't instituted, because there's so much money made in the banking processes, the insurance processes, and all the things that are added in commission and the benefits for employees. Well, with that mind and that 3-pronged stool, they then were ready to go to the public. Finally, they ran an ad because this launches on January the 1st, and companies are already getting in the queue to be there, to be one of the first ones in on this. What they found out is that when they started working with the people, that they ready to run an ad, they ran an ad on, well, just about a month ago, on 9/14, September the 14th. But even with the Wall Street Journal, they said, well, this can't be possible at first. And they didn't even want to run the ad, even though that was an expensive ad. So the Wall Street Journal, with their legal firm, and this company's legal firm, vetted that project for over 3 weeks before they even ran the ad. So this is the most vetted employee insurance add-on that was ever done. And now they're ready for the market. And what does it mean? The employee ends up taking the very same take-home check that he would have if money hadn't been withheld and sent into a local bank. Number 2, the employer gets tax credits, as you know, that you get from 105s and 125s. In addition to that, because they are able to raise their deductibles, they can raise their deductibles and still lower their health insurance premium. And the good news is this goes down even to a little company that has 5 people. A company of 5 or more can get in on this. Although, as an example, 1 or 2 of the people that work for me, like Brian in La Jolla, California, he used to own an international PEO. He doesn't even work with companies. We've been holding him off until the launch because he doesn't work with any PEO that's less than 10,000 people. And the first one he's going to bring in, get this, he and the former CEO are working with the present officers of the company, and they're going to be bringing, that PEO has 2 million people in it, of which 200,000, or about 1 in 10, are on a major medical plan. In other words, they do other retirement benefits for the rest, but about 10% of them have major medical. Well, think about it, thousands of people. Those are the size of the companies that will come into this. And the money generated for local companies in helping these employees pay for their out-of-pocket expense is a big deal. But look at this. This pays 55 up to 75% of their out-of-pocket and copays. And I thought to myself, if a married couple has like 22 grand being brought out of their check, which lowers their check, yet they still have the same take-home pay, how does all that work? Well, it all works because the out-of-pocket cost that the government allows in the year 2020 is 16.3. So that 16 totally takes care of all that. Now, let me tell you why banks and the way they've set this up, they've got lead banks in every state. Now, they're not state-chartered banks. They're mainly national banks, but they lead. And just like Lloyd's of London, when that 16 million is needed for that company of 1,000, they lay that off. They bring different banks into that to take part of it. Now, I used to own a major mortgage bank in Southern California. Let me tell you why banks would want to be a part of this. That bank, first of all, makes a loan to the nonprofit organization because nobody connected with the plan. That means Premier, the fiduciary, the employer, or the employee can participate in those extra things. Also, this is put together with a proprietary insurance product that they don't need to ever qualify for. It's out of sight, out of mind, doesn't go against their credit, and there's actually a company that collects it when they die and then adds it to the base for Social Security and the other employees. With that being done, these people get to have an out-of-pocket cost. An example, up to $2,500, it's 75%. So that means out of $2,500 in out-of-pocket expense, this plan would pay $1,875 of that. If they go up to $5,000 as a deductible, they pay 65%. That means 65 times that, they pay $3,250 of the employee's out-of-pocket cost of $5,000. And if it's above $5,000, they pay 55%. So it means like if they had a real high deductible, like a $7,000 deductible, they pay $3,750 of that. Now that's a big amount of money, but that's nothing compared to the increase in their Social Security. When have you ever thought you could ever go to your employees and say, I've got a plan for you that's going to pay all these exorbitant out-of-pocket fees that you have for health insurance, but in addition to that, $16,000 is going to be put in an account for you each year, which is going to make you take home the same take-home pay, get all these benefits, but it could increase the amount you receive in Social Security by $300,000 to $500,000. Now that's a big deal. I remember the filthy word that one of the presidential campaigns used to describe the Affordable Care Act, and he used a dirty word. But let me tell you something. Let's not use that word, but this is a big deal, and it will make you a hero to your employees, and it will keep your employees, and it will give you an edge over your competitors.